Flash update for November 7th. Our frequency is shifting. We're going to be talking about how I believe that we have indeed moved into a new phase of the Solar Flash Ascension event. Before we do, I suggest, as always, that you question your reality and then change it. ThunderWizard.com is the website that supports this channel. Please go check out all of the ways that you can support this channel, help keep me on the air here on YouTube by checking out the energy practices, the personal mentorship, spiritual counseling, live Zoom group classes. My books can be found at michaelwilliamdenny.com. Most importantly, please, every Wednesday and Saturday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the live guided interdimensional meditations. This is the most important and most powerful thing anybody can be doing. We are changing this world when we are doing these meditations, far beyond anything anybody even begins to realize. This is the most powerful thing anybody is doing on this planet. Speaking of meditations, the Atum Ra, meditation to become the ruling god of your universe. This is now free for all subscribers at the thunderwizard.com website, the Patreon site. If you're at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong or higher, you get access to this very powerful guided meditation where I take you through the path of becoming the self-created God of the universe. And if you want to get that without subscribing, you can go to the shop and you can purchase it there. Very affordable. And check out the shop for all the other things that you can get. And stay for the entire video because I have a list. I do have things. I'm going to babble, but I am going to keep us on this list of my predictions for the ascension process. What is happening, what I think will happen, and what you can do to really ascend. I mean, it's really happening. I really do believe that. I feel that. I experience that. I'm, we'll see. I'm still watching and waiting, but, it's now been, I want to say, almost a week, better part of a week, where something within me, without question, has shifted in a very real, measurable way. And I don't know what your experience has been. I suppose we're all different. We're getting to the place where it's getting to be impossible for people to resist this energy. The Solar Flash event is happening. We are in the midst of it. I believe, based on my experience as well as the communications that I've gotten from the higher dimensional light beings that I work with, the feeling that I've gotten as well as the message is that we're over the hump. So there was, the first part of the Solar Flash event, which officially began December 21st, 2021. That was the first time we got hit with the Solar Flash event energies, one of them. Since then, it's been a battle. So it's been, if you're like me and you've gotten hit with these solar storms, I've had a lot of negative emotional reactions. Fear, anxiety, just general anxiety, depression, anger, all kinds of just negative, defensive emotions have been coming up, and I've been doing, the work. In case you want to know how to get through that, do the 12 Steps to 5D. It's free on the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel. Go to the playlists and do the 12 Steps to 5D. That is the most powerful way to deal with the emotional and psychological defenses. Combined with, of course, the energy practices, which you can find here at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, and if you go to the shop, all this stuff, and this new meditation, which I told you about, which is now free. If you do that stuff combined with the 12 steps to 5D, if you combine that with working with a mentor, whether you're working with me or somebody else, those three things will make you bulletproof. In any case, I've been doing all that, and I've been doing everything I can in order to move forward through this ascension process. It's been very challenging. But something happened a week or so ago. And one day I just realized, I was just walking around and I just stopped and I realized that something had changed. It wasn't like I had a huge awakening experience of, I just realized that there was some negativity within me that was gone. It had just disappeared, like it had melted away, like a cloud that had dispersed, and it was just gone. Now, I'm still watching, and anything can happen. I'm still human. I still have my ups and downs, and I still have my judgments and my, the normal human negative stuff. But I'm much more able to stop it before it starts, and it's much easier for me to shift my thinking and my focus and my emotional state into a positive one. And not only that, but I'm able to shift into higher dimensions much more easily. And I'll get into that later, and I want to share with you how to do that. And in case you want to know what the Solar Flash event is, I don't know if there's going to be a singular Solar Flash final event that will shift the worlds and split the worlds into three, or bring all of us to the next frequency. I don't know. I have not been given any specific information that specific event will occur. I love that idea. I hope that's what happens, but I don't know that. I thought that might happen on October 6th, and it didn't. So now I don't know. Here's what I do know for a fact. I know for a fact we are in an ascension process. And I know for a fact it is directly linked to the solar radiation, the increased solar radiation that is hitting the Earth. That is without a doubt. And I was told on December 21st, 2021, when that first solar storm hit, I was told the night before. The light beings took me to, I believe it was a planet somewhere, and we were surrounded by a bunch of other, astral bodies of a bunch of other light workers from Earth and from other planets even. And there was a light being there who was making this announcement, saying that tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow is when it starts. That's the beginning, and that everything is going to change from that point on, and we are telling you now so that you can go and tell Earthlings about this shift that's coming. Now, it was just an interesting experience. Like as always, I remembered it, but I didn't get attached to it. And sure enough, that next morning we got hit with a solar storm, and I felt it, and I went outside and I could see things happening. A lot of things have happened since then. I've been taken to what we call a 5D mindset, level of joy and bliss. It wasn't the actual 5D because I was still my lower self, but it was sort of like I was grabbed and pulled up to it and, held there. Even though I was still 3D, I was experiencing 5D. So I know it's coming. And I know that the Solar Flash event has started. When I asked the light beings, what is the Solar Flash event going to be? They said it's going to be a series of solar waves of love. So every time we get hit with these solar storms, it is packed with very powerful spiritual, love, higher dimensional consciousness, which is love. And so people are responding to that. And the nature of this energy is it makes you go in one direction or the other. You can't stay in the middle for very long. It's far too uncomfortable. So you either have to die and release and let go and heal and awaken, and you move further up the ascension path, or you hide and you run away and you deny and you stay in your fear and your pain and your victimhood, and then you get driven further down and you become worse. And if you've noticed, a lot of people are completely flipping their lid. And some people have very irrationally become very destructive and very, just toxic and dark. And other people who were really toxic and dark people are awakening, and they're evolving. So, you're finding out who people really are. People who have false spirituality, it's becoming clear who they truly are. And the people who looked like they were really screwed up, actually they were working in their own way to evolve, and now they're awakening and evolving very rapidly. So that is a fact. That's not something that we can, debate. So the question is, what happened in the past few weeks? So for me, when I realized that something had left, something within me, some negative programmed responses to life, to everyday life, as well as to spiritual ascension energies, something major in me, it feels like it just sort of melted away, faded away, like a cloud just disappeared. And I'm waiting to see if that continues. So far, I believe it will. But I can tell you what led up to that. If you're doing these interdimensional meditations here and you're communicating with light beings, there is a very good chance you're being told that you are what you are in the spirit world, which they experience as the real world. Remember, the way this is turning out to be is that the third dimensional Earth is a video game. It is a simulation. It is not real. And it is a simulation where everything is flipped upside down. It is a bizarro upside down world. And in this bizarro upside down world, you are a small person, you're sinful, you're evil, you are, everything happens to you from the outside, and everything is outside of you, and you need money, you need acceptance, you need all these things, because if you don't, people are going to come after you, and the world is going to come after you, and we live in this empty, horrible, evil universe run by reptilian, horrible beings. That is the third dimensional reality, which is an illusion. It is a video game. So remember what I said is that this third dimensional experience is completely 100% opposite to reality. Reality is anything above this third dimension. So take everything I said and flip it on its head. You're not this little person that everything happens to. No, you're the God. You're the creator of everything. You create everything. You don't live in an empty, loveless universe. You live in a universe filled with love. You don't live in a universe where you're isolated and you don't know what anybody else is thinking. You live in a universe where you are never isolated, you're never alone, you're always connected to spirit, and you're connected to all other conscious beings, and all conscious beings see you and love you, and you are loved and worshipped by every conscious being in the universe. The exact opposite of what we experience here. Here we gain our value based on what we do and what power we have and what possessions we have, or things like how we look, or how much money we have, or how much power we have. And you don't have any value in and of yourself. You only have value based on those external things or those actions. But turn that upside down, and in the true world, in what we perceive as the spirit world, which is the actual true world, that world, you have value simply because you exist. And every single person has infinite value because they are connected to infinite spirit. And so there isn't anybody that is any more or less beautiful. Every single person is unique and wonderful, and when every single soul, including yours, is viewed in that world, every other conscious being goes, oh my God, you're the most beautiful, amazing creature I've ever seen. And then somebody else comes along, oh my God, you're the most beautiful, amazing creature. Oh my God. You have that everybody has that. And everybody loves you. Everybody is in love with you. You're never alone. And everything is beautiful. There isn't, you don't live in a world where predators are chasing after you, or you have to turn around and chase after other things. You don't have to compete for anything. There's no wars, there's no violence. It's the complete opposite of here. So remember that. And what this solar flash event is, it is a shift to that world. So I'm telling you, based on my experience, we've achieved some milestone. And this isn't me just telling you what light beings have told me. In the past, I've told you the light beings told me. We did it. We're now on the other side of this, and we're moving toward, and I would go, I don't see it, I don't feel it. And they watch, just wait, just watch. And I think that this most recent, and I know I got a lot of flack from people of my last video when I talked about the election. And I'm sorry if you're all welcome here, but you're also welcome to watch whatever videos you want. But I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you something I don't think just to get you to like me. I'm going to tell you the truth as I know it. And it's okay if I'm wrong, and it's okay if you don't agree with me. Everybody has a right to their own experience and their opinion. But I believe that this recent election was massive. And I think it's massive because of what it represents. I don't think that Donald Trump is the Messiah who's going to come and free the world. I don't think that's the case. What I think is that the things that were being, what it represented the people deciding to take control out of the hands of the elite. And it represented people waking up to, not being hypnotized and told what to think and what to do. Does that mean they've achieved perfection? No, not at all, not even close. But I believe that it represents a movement, a very powerful movement of consciousness and energy in the right direction. Now, there's a lot of things that have to happen, which we're going to talk about right now. So here are my predictions for the ascension process. So here's what I think, and by the way, these are in no specific order. But I'm telling you, I believe and I desire for these things to happen at some point in some way. So the first one, which I think is the most important, is that the legalistic monotheist religions will completely disappear. Now, my vision that I was given 2.5 years ago when I first started working with the light beings, and they gave me a vision, which, the short of it is everything is going to change and people's consciousness are going to completely expand, and they will awaken. But one of the themes in that vision was that religion is going to disappear. And it's going to disappear in such a way that first what has to happen is that people have to awaken spiritually. Now, what's going to happen is that some people are going to become more religious. What's the comedian's name? He's now a podcaster. What's his name? I forget his name. The British guy. He became a born-again Christian out of nowhere. Well, now, you and I might say, well, that born-again Christianity, that's a really toxic religion. But what it represents is that's him going through the process of awakening more deeply on a spiritual level. So one of the things people do, some people will go back to their childhood religion, or they will they'll go back to something that's more defined, so that they can focus more. So I do believe that some people will become more religious, which means that some people will get into the legalistic monotheist religions. But eventually what will happen, which is what happened with me, I was a devout born-again Christian my entire childhood, and up until until I was basically 21. And then I had an awakening where I walked away from, and it was very challenging. It was a very, very difficult experience. I mean, it's a cult. So let me be clear. I don't mean this to be hurtful to anybody, and you can be hurt if you want. I can't stop that, but I've written books about it. I've done a lot of research, so I can tell you historically why this is, and easily I can tell you spiritually why it is. But the Abrahamic monotheist religions are cults. They are the definition of cults. Whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, or any of the other offshoots like Mormonism and Seventh-day Adventist or Catholicism or Baptist, all of those offshoots of the Abrahamic monotheist religions, they are all cults. So the definition of cult for me is whenever you believe that your belief, your faith, makes you superior to anybody else. Christianity says only those who believe this certain intellectual belief will be saved. And if you haven't, you will go to hell. And that is absolutely prejudicial. I mean, it's bigotry. It's spiritual bigotry. Zionism is even worse. They tell you that they believe in the one true God, but not only that, they are the ethnically chosen people. And if your soul isn't born into that ethnic group, then you're less than them and you're not chosen. And, so I mean, that's just absolute bigotry and racism wrapped up into spirituality. It's just extremely toxic, and it's a cult. And there's no way around that. Islam is the same way. If in fact, the word Islam means I surrender, and they'll tell you it means submission, like submission to God. It doesn't mean that. When the Islamic jihadists would come in and they'd conquer something, they would also force people to convert, and they'd put swords to people's neck and say, do you surrender? Do you convert? And they'd say, Islam, Islam, I surrender, I surrender. Meaning I surrender to your God, to your religion, don't kill me. Same thing happened in Europe with Christianity. There was the massacre at Verdun. Go look it up. And Christian soldiers came into pagan people in Northern Europe who wanted to connect with them militarily and otherwise, but they wanted to keep their own religion. And the Christian king, I think it was Charlemagne, said to them, yeah, let's all get together and we'll have a peace meeting. And for European pagans, a peace meeting meant that it was a spiritual rule. You could not bring weapons. It was in fact, it was impossible. You were not allowed to bring weapons into the temples. So when you went to a peace meeting, it was against spiritual law to bring weapons. So they all showed up. Hundreds of the chieftains showed up. Thousands of people showed up, I think. But at the very least, it was probably in the hundreds. And they showed up without any weapons, and the Christians showed up with their swords, and they put swords to their neck, and they said, do you accept Jesus as the Savior? And if they said no, they cut their neck, and it said that the rivers were running with blood. And the Christians took it as a victory. Yay for God. This religion is going to be wiped away. And I believe it will happen because people will awaken to that reality. It will become impossible to survive the solar flash event and not realize that Abrahamic monotheism is a toxic cult. And every other thought process similar to that is gonna be rejected. It's not gonna come. This is the thing. You can't force awakening. You can't force it on people. And so this mass awakening from a religious perspective, the release of religion will come from the inside, and people will just awaken and realize, oh wow, that doesn't really make any sense. God isn't something outside of me, and God doesn't pick and choose, and I'm God, and this spirit loves me, and everybody is part of it. In fact, everybody is God. That is the kind of awakening that will happen. It's my prediction. It's also my desire. Anyway, we'll see. So legalistic monotheist religions will disappear. Again, not in any specific order. Massive governmental reforms, massive banking reforms. So governmental reforms, we're already seeing that. I was so enthused. Again, I don't think Trump is anything special. I think he's just a human. And he definitely doesn't have everything right. He didn't have the jab right. He didn't understand that. He still doesn't. I don't think he understands what's really going on with ETs. I think he has an idea now that he's had at least 2 attempts on his life. I think he has an idea about what the deep state is really about, but I don't think he really understands the true scope of it. But he seems to be genuinely interested in governmental reform. I believe that. I think the first time around he didn't know what he was doing, and he hired he didn't realize that the people he hired were all part of the goon squad. I think he realizes that now. Seeing RFK, let me just get the negative out of the way. He absolutely has the wrong take on the genocide that's happening in the Middle East. He doesn't understand that, at least from what I understand. But he definitely knows what's going on when it comes to Big Pharma. He definitely has the beat on that, and he's planning to go in and reform that. And then you've got Elon Musk. Now, he's a billionaire. Who knows? I don't know what skeletons are in his closet, but he definitely has worked hard to help promote free speech. And they've tried to censor him and come after him in all kinds of ways. And he's going to be working in the government to reform stuff. So whether or not these people are completely honest, well-intentioned, or whether they fully informed, that's another subject. But the fact that that was legislated by the population of the United States overwhelmingly shows, I believe, that one of the first things that's going to happen, massive governmental reforms. You can't go. You saw what this election was about. It wasn't about Republican versus Democrat. Those were just flimsy titles. That's not what it was about. It was about lockdowns, reforms, destruction of rights, destruction of health, destruction of free speech, destruction of freedom, versus people fighting for the opposite. That's what it was about. The labels were arbitrary. But underneath that, that's what happened, and those are the only 2 paths that there's only 2 ways to go. We're either going to go into deep state government control, or we're going to move towards populist freedom, people gaining their freedom again. I would love for a politician to educate people, to let them know that it's against the Constitution to tax people. that the whole idea of the IRS is against the Constitution, and that the United States originally got its money from tariffs. There was no such thing as tax. They didn't tax anybody. The money that the government got was from tariffs. And so people talk about taxes like it's some kind of noble, thing, like, you got to be good to your neighbor and you got to pay your taxes. Taxation is theft. Period. It's theft. I want to hear a politician not just talk about reducing taxes, but say, hey, let's go back to the original Constitution where there was no such thing as a federal income tax. Let's get rid of that. I want to hear that. I think something like that will come. In fact, I heard hints of Trump talking about that. He can't get away with talking about that right now, but maybe he will later. I think there will be massive banking reforms. To me, the banks should be completely, totally liquidated. I should keep links. Actually, I'll have to remember it, but there's on YouTube there is I remember it. Zeitgeist. There's a movie called Zeitgeist the movie, and there's been updates. So I think it's the second one, Zeitgeist. I don't remember the name of it, but look at the Zeitgeist movies, and you can watch them for free on YouTube. Look at the second one where they go into describing money from the government's perspective. So from the Fed defines what money is. And when you find out how they define money, you will find out that you are being lied to, that you have been lied to, and it is the biggest scam. It is the biggest enslavement scam ever created. Just having money. That banks themselves are the worst enslavement scammers in existence. And when you hear from the federal definition of money, by the Fed I mean the Federal Reserve Bank, which is not part of the government. When you find out what their definition of money is, it will absolutely blow your mind. So when I say massive banking reforms, I mean the complete dissolution of money. Now, some of you listening to me may think, yeah, we're going to go back to the gold standard. Well, the gold standard had some, physically meant something. If you had a dollar bill, it equaled to $1 worth of gold. And so gold was an actual physical thing. So I agree with you on that level. When money had an actual one-to-one meaning, it doesn't anymore. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Money now doesn't have any connection to anything. In fact, it's completely arbitrarily just invented and created out of nothing, which is, so the whole idea of interest is ridiculous. The whole idea of any of that, it's just ridiculous. But gold is in and of itself doesn't have any value, because value comes from resources. Food, clothing, energy. These things are things that have actual value to us. So gold being a symbol of value is still an arbitrary symbolic thing which can be abused. So I don't think going back to the gold standard is a good idea, because if the world falls apart and you have, in your basement, a bunch of gold, it's going to be meaningless when the only thing that people need are going to be food and clothing and energy. Those are the only things that are going to mean anything. Gold is going to be meaningless when you can't do anything with it. So I encourage you to, if you're holding on to that thinking that gold standard is real value, it's still symbolic, it can still be abused, and it's still ultimately, when it comes, if somebody puts you in the middle of the jungle and hands you, 100 pounds of gold, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. You're not going to be able to eat it. You're not going to be able to live in it. You're not going to be able to wear it. You're not going to be able to drink it. You're not going to be able to do anything with it unless somebody comes along and thinks that it has value. So I encourage you to get rid of that idea. And this is part of, spiritual understanding. There's no such thing as money. Money is completely made up. There's only resources. And when we realize that resources are infinitely and abundantly available, then we realize there's no need for money. And when there's no need for money, there's no such thing as rich people and poor people. Everybody has the same access. You don't have to hoard anything, because there's plenty of it for everybody. And that's the truth of the matter. So when I say massive banking reform, I mean completely getting rid of the idea of money. I think this is coming. And if that bothers you, if it bothers you, the thought of living in a world where there is no such thing as money, I encourage you to meditate and ask yourself why that is a toxic thought and where that's coming from. I'll let you meditate on that yourself. Especially if it frightens you, the thought of living in a world without money. If that frightens you, I encourage you to meditate on that. What else? Complete exposure of the dark force crimes against humanity. I can't talk about them here, and I don't think I should, and it's not my job. My job is to focus on the future. But suffice it to say, the quote, "Where are the children?" I'll just leave it at that. When that becomes exposed, and everybody in the world knows the answer to that question, where are the children? And what is happening to them? When people understand the answer to that question, we will never be able to go back to a world where there are people who have power over others. We will never be able to go back to that. So I believe that that is coming, that exposure of dark force crimes against humanity. And that isn't even taking into account hiding from us the 0 point energy. Right now, the true economy isn't gold and it isn't money, it's petroleum. We are a petroleum-based society. And the reason why everybody who comes along who has an invention, like I remember the guy in the 80s, and he wasn't the first one, and he wasn't the last one, but every single one of them got unalived. I remember the guy in the 80s who invented a way to use your actual car, like an attachment he built to put on your car engine, which made the car run on water. And he proved it. And I remember seeing it on a local news show. And he was pouring water into the engine, and the only thing that was coming out was oxygen. That was what coming out of his engine was oxygen. And and he showed it, and he showcased it and proved it. I remember seeing it on the local news. And then he disappeared, and the last thing he said was, "Oh my God, they poisoned me." And he wasn't the first, and he wasn't the last. And that's because we live in a petroleum-based society. That's why we still fly airplanes, even though they still have had, probably for 100 years, anti-gravitational technology. That's why the majority of the UFOs you see flying around are human-built. They have that. They have 0 point energy, and that has been invented numerous times in the decades, and each one of those people have been unalived. And literally something the size of a matchbox can power an entire city. You combine that with having 0 point energy machines that can fly faster than the speed of light, and everybody has one like the Jetsons. Well, if you live like that, then guess what? There's trillions of dollars that can't be made, whereas you have to either go to the gas station and fill up your car with gas, or you've got to hook it up to the electricity. And what does electricity run on? Electricity is made from, if you're lucky, made from water or wind, but almost certainly it comes from, again, petroleum, coal being burnt and turned into electricity. That is money. That is continuous profit that we are addicted to. We are a petroleum-based society. We're not even a money-based society. When that goes away, which it will, because they can't hold on to this information. They've been holding on to it for a very long time. That's why anybody with the slightest bit of science awareness comes up with a zero-point energy machine. I mean, if enough people are doing it, people are going to start coming up with zero-point energy machines. And every time they do, they just get rid of them. It's going to be impossible for that information to be kept secret because we live in the society of instant information. So at some point, somebody's going to come up with it and then give away the plans for free, and people will start making their own zero-point energy machines, and the dark forces won't be able to do a damn thing to stop it. It'll destroy their ability to make money, because without petroleum, they can't control you. That's why they don't like ETs. That's probably the main reason. Because if you connect with ETs will go, no, there's this thing called zero-point energy. We'll teach you how to make it. That's why they come up with the fake alien invasion and the Blue Beam Project and all that. That's why they came up with that. It's to keep you buying petroleum from them every single day. Buying electricity from them every single day. That's where the true money is. So, complete exposure of dark force crimes against humanity, rapid social awakening followed by spiritual awakening. So we're in the first part of that. I can feel it. Rapid social awakening. I mean, when you look at, again, what I loved about and again, if you don't like this, I want you to stay on my channel. I hope you'll listen to what I have to teach, but if I'm going to be canceled every time I talk about something having to do with a real life thing like politics and government, if that's going to make you, you should have seen some of the really devaluing troll things people said just because I talked about a freaking election. But what this election represents is massive social awakening. RFK Jr., the nephew of John F. Kennedy. You can't get more democratic than that in terms of political parties. He walked away from that, and I don't even know how many else. I was one. I was a lifelong Democrat, and I completely walked away from them. And so you've got all these people are coming together that aren't part of some unified prefabricated belief system like has always been the case. You've got people coming together and creating, teaming up with each other. RFK Jr. And Trump and the other people coming together and focusing on what's important, which is people's freedom. This is already happening, the first part of this. So rapid social awakening followed by spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is just that. It's not religious awakening. Religion, as I said, is going to go away. And people are going to realize that, and again, the definition of the word religion. The word religion is, the definition of that is to bind together, literally to bind it up. Religion binds you and traps you. It does the opposite of free you. And it doesn't matter how many, Christians talk about, Jesus, will free you. Well, that's only if you believe exactly what you're being told to believe, which is the same thing that all the monotheists do. I got a bunch of ants showing up. So I didn't kill that ant, by the way. I just knocked him off. In case you're worried about me killing insects. Spiritual awakening. Okay, massive technological advancement in zero-point energy. We already talked about that. Solar flash awakening. The real question is it instant or gradual? So I don't know. I do know that we are experiencing the solar flash event. Without a doubt. We are in it. It is happening. The awakening is in process. It is in full swing. The question is whether or not there's going to be an instant final event, whether, what's going to happen from this point on, we don't know. Or is it just going to be what it's been? Now, we've already massively awakened in the last couple of years, especially. So will it be more of that? Will it be another couple of years? Some people, most people seem to be settling on 2026 as when the big event is going to happen. That wouldn't surprise me at all. It feels like that's a possibility. I definitely feel like we've started the process for sure. For sure. 2023 and 2024 were the beginnings of the solar flash event. How long? That I don't know. Increasing awareness of true human connection to spirit. I talked about that in the beginning already. The true connection to spirit, I'm going to tell you, is that you're a God. You're not just a soul. Now that's the first awakening. People awaken to the idea that they have a soul within them that doesn't die, that lives forever. And maybe they awaken to the idea of they reincarnate, they've had past lives. So the idea of the soul, that's really, we're just barely scratching the surface. That's just the basics of it. And if we talk about it, that's pretty much as far as all religions go. And even spirituality, I'm a big fan of Vedic spirituality, which isn't a religion. It's a collection of spiritual sciences and practices. Again, that's the difference between Abrahamic religion. Abrahamic religion is all intellectual. That's why they call it faith. You never hear somebody talk about the Vedic faith. Talk about somebody who practices Vedic religion. You never hear about the Taoist faith, because Taoism is about practices. It's about personal experience with life force energy. Same thing with Vedic. The Vedic religion started with people singing the Vedas, which a shaman was deep in trance and was hearing these being chanted in the ethers, and he was singing what he was hearing, and they memorized them and then wrote them down and then practiced them and took pieces out of them and chanted them. These were practices. There's no such thing as the Taoist faith. There's no such thing as shamanic faith. No, shamans practice connecting. They go into mystical states of awareness. It has nothing to do with belief. But Christians talk about the Christian belief, faith. Jews talk about their faith. And I don't know what Muslims say, but it's going to be the same thing. It's going to translate to what they intellectually believe, and their intellectual belief will save them. And they might have some laws that they follow, but those are all still based on intellectuality. There's nothing practical about them. Anyway, until I'm not a fan of that stuff. That's all going away. So the true connection to spirit is that you are God. Now, the first part of that is to awaken to the idea that you are a God. Meaning, when you leave this third dimensional video game and you get into higher dimensions, you will find out that you are a God that literally has the ability to create worlds, universes, create galaxies. You're able to create, I mean, whatever you would say, Jehovah does, you have that ability. And I don't mean that symbolically, I mean that literally. But in order to get to that place, you have to get out of the third dimension and then keep expanding your identity into who you really are. And then it's a real thing. I'm telling you from personal experience. I can tell you from personal experience, that's what happens when you expand. You expand into becoming a deity. That's what this meditation is all about. We can't fit that into our third dimensional brain and understanding. And those people who have expanded into that have been mistaken as prophets and messiahs, and all they've been is human beings who've expanded beyond the third dimension and brought that into their third dimensional reality. The Buddha, but even those guys were just barely scratching the surface. Barely. So what's going to happen in this awakening is that all humans are going to have the opportunity to expand into becoming a god while still being in the third dimension. And that's cool. That's a very trippy experience. It's a mind-blowing experience. And lastly, increasing contact with extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional worlds. And this is when you are able to live in this third dimension and simultaneously be in higher dimensional states. And when you get to that level, and when society, when the human race is at that level, then we will be, at that point, the frequencies will shift to a point where we will see all of the other extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional beings that are around us all the time. Then we will become one of them. Then we will be a light being. A light being is nothing more than a soul just like yours, no different. No different than yours. A soul just like yours that expands its identity to its God status while still being a specific identity, perhaps even in a physical body. In order to have that awareness, your frequency will shift up and you will become a light being. You already are, you just haven't awakened to it. And the awakening process is awakening to that. You can't awaken to those things, for example, and still hold on to a religion. So people who are addicted to religion, they'll shift down. Because the only way to hold on to that belief, that legalistic belief, and the base assumption of all religion is that humans are dog shit, and God accepts them if you kiss his ass. Let's face it. Religion is about virtue signaling. Look at, I'm not going to name a specific religion, but, they're easy to find. Look at how ridiculous the way that some people in some religions, the way they dress. And they dress in these ridiculous ways because they think that's the law and God has told them to do that. And so in order to kiss God's ass and virtue signal that I'm doing what this person tells me and my value comes from, aligning all of my behavior to what this outside person tells me to do. See what a good person I am? It's just virtue signaling. And it's the epitome of narcissism and codependence and self-hatred. And you can't have that and evolve into being a god. It's blasphemous in monotheist religions to even say that, to say I'm God, I am a god. You can't do that. You're a blasphemer if you do that. If I had said that, a few hundred years ago, if I had said that, 300 years ago, they would have burnt me at the stake for a witch. If I had said that, 500 years ago, they would have stoned me to death. They would have killed me on the spot if I had said that. But that's the truth. You may not experience that. You may experience yourself as this little tiny person in this big giant universe, and there are these other powers out there that are more powerful than you, and you pray to those powers, please accept me, please love me, please give me good health, please give me please. And those beings are like, well, you can just do it for yourself. You can make it happen if you want. But human beings, if they want to control you, they create religion. And I'm here to tell you that the Abrahamic religions were created solely for enslaving and controlling people's minds so that they could control them politically from the very beginning. And it was came out of the Old Testament religion, and then it was then perfected by the Romans, and then the Arabs came along and created Islam and created their own version of that. That's all that is. All that stuff's got to go. It's got to go. You can't hold on to any of that and shift up. It's not possible. Increasing contact with extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional worlds. So my suggestion to you is, besides all the stuff that I tell you to do, the three most important things you can do are to be doing the energy practices. I think mine are the most powerful, but there's plenty of stuff out there: yoga, tai chi, pick it, Reiki, whatever. Go to thunderwizard.com, do the Warrior 90-Day Challenge, do the Maoshan 5-element spirit fighting. Those are the things so the energy practices, 12 steps to 5D, which is free. Do that on this channel. That will help you psychologically awaken. And then have a mentor. Those three things will make you bulletproof. I recommend that. Besides that 3-step process of becoming bulletproof, the most powerful thing anybody can do is work directly with light beings. So do CE5. Go, if you don't know what that is, go type in the letter C, the letter E, the number 5 protocols, and just do that. Go outside and try and connect with extraterrestrials. They're the gateway. They're the gateway drug. Extraterrestrials are the gateway to a higher dimensional experience. I mean, I did it once. I had, I can count on my hand the amount of time that I've seen ET spaceships. Very few times. I haven't seen a lot of that, because that was just the gateway. Once I made that connection, and then it became an internal connection with them, they've connected with me in much more powerful dimensional ways. And they've been more interested in connecting to me more deeply in a dimensional way than the external stuff. But when you communicate with higher dimensional beings, especially when you allow them to tell you how they see you, and you hear that, it'll expand you. Now, I'll give you the most powerful tip I know. That is to repeat to yourself over and over again what they tell you about who you are. Now, when they've told me that I'm king of earth, as crazy as that sounds, when I'm going through my day and I repeat that to myself, I am king of earth, the energy that I tap into is phenomenal. And I can feel that phrase, me identifying with that truth, that higher dimensional truth, that creates a portal which pulls more and more of me into higher dimensions. So that's what they told me. They're going to tell you something else. They're going to tell you something equally as fantastical. And I encourage you to listen to that and then repeat it back to yourself throughout the day. And that is a very, very powerful way to shift your connection to a higher frequency. And imagine if everybody in the entire world was expanding to that level. That's what the new earth is going to be, I think. We'll find out. Again, these are just my predictions. All right, so those are my predictions for the ascension process. Thank you for letting me babble on. As always, please show up for the live guided interdimensional meditations. Go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe, and or go to the shop for the practices and get those. Books can be found at michaelwilliamdenny.com. And I'll see you guys on Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Until then, please be very good to yourself and know how much I love you and appreciate you, and I appreciate all your support of this channel and of me, especially lately. There's been a lot of support for me lately, and I really appreciate that, and I'm very grateful. And I can't do this work without you guys, so I hope you continue to show up and at the very least do the meditations. Please take very good care of yourselves, and I will see you all very soon.